Welcome back to the deep dive. We're here to sift through those sources and pull out the insights that really help you feel informed, maybe even spark a few aha moments along the way. Today, we're plunging into something quite interesting, a mix of an astrology of the day report, this one's for July 5th, 2025, and also a really compelling personal story. Our mission really is to unpack these two pieces and see what nuggets of wisdom they might offer about, well, things like intuition, self-discovery, and how to navigate when life feels, foggy.
And it feels like these themes are particularly relevant right now, wouldn't you say? What's quite intriguing is how these sources, though different, kind of weave together. They offer this framework for understanding energy and growth. It's not about telling you what to do, more about understanding the vibe. We're drawing from this astrology of the day report from Tarot by High C. If you want to know more about their work or maybe book a reading, you can find them at tarotby-ic.net. That's HU-IC. It's all in the source material we have.
Okay, great. So let's unpack this. Starting with the general astrological feel for July 5th, 2025. The report, well, it jumps right in with this core message. Silence is golden. Insights and answers await in the stillness. It talks about having emotional courage, the kind that lets you be vulnerable but not fragile, and intense but without all the drama.
Yeah, there's this sense of knowing what you're capable of, feeling energy flow, like really harmoniously, effortlessly even.
And it mentions something really interesting about the conscious and unconscious mind speaking the same language on this day, which suggests, this unusual ability to, as the report puts it, see all the way down to the bottom of our emotional ocean without being overwhelmed. That's quite powerful. It means suppressed feelings might bubble up maybe in conversations or perhaps in dreams. It's really about acknowledging what you've been sort of nurturing in secret, inviting it in. Doesn't mean you have to broadcast it, but just be honest with yourself. A day for deep emotional honesty. Okay, so digging into the morning part for July 5th, it points to a Scorpio moon trine the sun. Now, for anyone listening, a trine is usually seen as a positive, flowing aspect. And Scorpio moon often connects to our deeper, maybe hidden emotions. So
Yeah.
what does this specific trine suggest?
Yeah, exactly. This particular alignment, it's described as creating a kind of bridge between surface and depth, between what we show the world and, what we keep hidden inside. So it really helps deepen that connection to your inner world. Makes it easier to integrate those hidden bits with your outward self. It could feel like a moment where inner truth and outer expression just click,
Effortlessly.
effortlessly.
Okay, that daily snapshot is powerful. But the material also zooms out, right? It brings in this much bigger context. Neptune retrograde in Aries. This isn't just one day. It spans from July 4th all the way to December 10th. And just as a reminder for you listening, a retrograde period often turns planets' energy inward. It's about reflection, reevaluating things, not so much about pushing forward externally. So what kind of introspection does this Neptune retrograde invite, and what should we maybe watch out for?
Right, connecting it to that bigger Neptune picture. The insights suggest it has, well, both positive and challenging sides, very distinct ones. On the plus side, your intuition, maybe psychic impressions, could feel stronger. Dreams might be really vivid. There's potential here to dissolve old identities. Fantasies may be built on shaky ground. Things we told ourselves that aren't quite true anymore. Our hearts might open up more easily. So think selflessness, compassion, forgiveness, letting go of past stuff. It's fertile ground for realizations about self-worth, identity, authenticity, really confronting some truths, shedding unhealthy patterns. So definite opportunities for real, lasting spiritual and emotional growth there.
Wow, that sounds incredibly deep.
Yeah.
Transformative, potentially. But you mentioned challenges, too, the fog, the illusions. And how does the source guide us through that tension? Because, I think we've all been there, right? Wearing those rose-colored glasses, ignoring red flags, because we just want something to be true so badly.
Oh, absolutely. It's very human. And the insights do warn about that. This retrograde can feel like, and I'm quoting here, a behind-the-scenes look at dreams, illusions, and that one goal we swore was divine inspiration, but may have just been our ego on a bender. So yeah, the risk is definitely seeing things too optimistically, ignoring those red flags, setting yourself up for disappointment. You might feel extra vulnerable, maybe overwhelmed. And the temptation could be escapism, addictions, just avoiding reality. The material literally says it can feel like moving through fog and cannot see clearly. So the key seems to be radical self-honesty, even when it's uncomfortable, especially when it's uncomfortable.
And there's a specific note here for you, the listener. The report mentions this influence might hit strongest for those with planets or points in their birth chart between 1 and 3 degrees of the cardinal signs. That's Aries, Cancer, Libra, or Capricorn. Those are often the initiating signs, right? So for some of you, this whole Neptune fog thing might feel particularly intense.
Exactly. It just highlights where these energies might be felt most acutely, especially if your core way of being resonates with starting things, with that cardinal energy.
Okay, so putting this all together, what does this actually feel like for someone living through these energies? This brings us perfectly to story time, the clearing fog, and the character, Lyra. She sounds like a really powerful example of navigating exactly these themes.
Yes, Lyra's story is quite something. She's presented as someone who always trusted her instincts. Ever since she was a kid, dreams guided her, symbols spoke to her. She built her whole life chasing these divinely guided urges, jobs, relationships, adventures. Even when logic maybe suggested otherwise, her intuition was like armor, the story says. She thought it made her special, untouchable.
But then the narrative says something changed for her recently. The night sky felt heavier, stars seemed blurry, like behind a mist, and her dreams became thick, relentless, showing her visions of herself she didn't even recognize. She'd wake up, heart pounding, images fading, but always with this one phrase just hanging there, really unsettling. What if it was never meant for you?
Mm-hmm. And that leads to her moment of reckoning, down at an old pier. Fog everywhere, swallowing the edges of the world. She's feeling that raw vulnerability that rises when illusions begin to crack. That's a powerful line. She pulls out this old, worn notebook. It's filled with affirmations, spiritual goals she'd written with such conviction before. Things like, the universe wants me to be known, I will heal the world, this love is my destiny. But sitting there in that Neptunian atmosphere, they just felt hollow, heavy, like the weight of who she thought she had to be.
Yeah, and then this thought just hits her, lands like a stone in her chest. What if I've been chasing my ego, not my calling?
Hmm.
The story describes her just letting go, crying tears held back for years, grieving for the versions of herself she'd clung to, the dreams she mistook for destiny, maybe the warnings she'd ignored because they didn't fit her narrative.
And beneath all that grief, something else starts to emerge. A strange, aching tenderness, the story calls it. She starts to see how much of her identity was built to, well, prove her worth, to chase recognition, love, thinking that would make her feel whole. This mask of the mystic, the healer, the muse, the narrative clarifies they weren't exactly lies, but more like half-truths built on fragile scaffolding. It's a huge internal shift. Deep disillusionment, really, but one that's opening the door to something more authentic.
And as dawn starts to break, the fog around her lifts. The water calms down, becomes like a mirror, and she sees her reflection. For the first time in ages, she just sees herself. Not the roles, not the dreams, not the carefully built identity,
Right.
just her. Flawed, raw, human. And the story says in that moment, it was enough.
Yeah. And then there's this symbolic act. She leaves the notebook right there on the pier, lets the wind take the pages, letting go the old goals, the ego stuff, the rose-colored stories. She just lets them go.
And the story ends with Lyra not having a new grand plan or a new sign from the universe, nothing like that. What she has instead is this quiet certainty. A feeling that healing isn't about chasing more visions, but about standing still right there in the fog, waiting for the truth, her truth, to find her. She was finally ready to meet it, just ready.
Wow, what a powerful story. Lyra's journey, it just perfectly illustrates those astrological themes we were talking about, doesn't it? Especially the Neptune retrograde challenges and, well, the opportunities too. It shows how those big abstract energy shifts can play out in a really personal, deeply transformative way. It really does. I think the core takeaway here from both the astrology and the story is the power of stillness, of vulnerability, of
Yeah.
just being honestly self-reflective. That's how clarity comes, especially when illusions start to crumble. True strength, like Lyra found, it often comes from acknowledging ourselves fully flaws and all, not from chasing external validation or sticking to old ego-driven ideas. It comes from that quiet honesty.
So as you go about your day, maybe something to think about. What fog might be obscuring your own view right now? Are there any old narratives, maybe divinely guided ideas you've held on to that you might be ready to gently re-examine? Or perhaps, like Lyra, just set free? What stands out to you from her journey?